After spending about 2 hours with BattleTech, I'm disappointed that the game isn't perfect because I love what I've played so far. But I do think that is a great criticism for the game to have. What do I mean by that? The things that I have bad to say about BattleTech have nothing to do with the foundation of the game. I've only played for 2 hours, so I don't know the depth of what this game has to offer, but at the surface level I can tell there's a lot for me to sink my teeth into, and I'm excited to do so. But there are things on the surface that are a little bit irritating. The main thing is that it doesn't look beautiful. It's not an ugly game by any means, but it's not the best looking game I've played this year or over the last maybe 5 years or so. I've gotten spoiled by games like Destiny 2 and Battlefield 1, even Titanfall 2. They look a lot better, and it's not even an issue of stylized graphics or just being opinionated. There's something weird where it's gnawing in the back of my head that I don't know, some's just a little bit off about the visuals, but overall, that's not saying anything bad about the core gameplay loop of BattleTech, which I was thoroughly enjoying. The other negative that I came across in my initial 2 hours of play was that the game is not fully voice acted, and that is not a huge problem, but after playing a game like For Honor that had voice acting through and through, there was never a moment when I had to stop and read anything. Even the little bonus bits of lore were beautifully voice acted. Coming into any game that doesn't have that treatment makes me say, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna have to do a little bit of extra work, but it's totally worth it because the universe for BattleTech is very deep, and I've been enjoying trying to immerse myself in it as much as possible. The character creation had you reading a lot about the different factions that inhabit the 31st century and pretty much introduced you to the state of humanity, and it was very fascinating to read it, but I would have loved to have some grisly Jason Statham-esque character reading it off to me because that kind of stuff is just fun. That was something that made For Honor's story, while not very original, very entertaining. The main villain, her name was Apollyon, and she had a beautifully, beautifully horrifying sounding voice that narrated a lot of the campaign and all of the extra bits of lore that were scattered across the maps.
So, what happens now? You all just go home?
This is an excerpt from the finale of For Honor Story Mode, and it's very plain to see that the cinematic quality that existed here is second to very few. Every time a cutscene came on, I felt like I was being immersed in a movie-level presentation, and that was something great to couple with the fun and engaging gameplay of For Honor. So voice acting and fully animated cutscenes are just something I like to see in my games. I'm always a little bit disappointed when it's not there, but it's not a deal breaker. On that note, there are cutscenes in BattleTech. It's not all reading. There's plenty of good presentation in the game, but it doesn't permeate every single second of the gameplay.
Proudly we went forth, bringing the light of our coalition to so many systems. And for what? To see our great kingdom slowly waste away? Year after year, the Council deliberates while our economy falters, and the wolves bay at every door, while covetous neighbors plot against us. Well, I say, it can go no further.
And that right there is an excerpt from one of BattleTech's cinematics, and the difference is night and day. Now that's not to say that the quality of the voice acting and the overall story of this game is uninteresting, because that is not true at all. I'm very curious as to how the story is going to play out, but I'm not treated to mini movies in between missions. I'm treated to interesting dialogue and very beautiful art, but it's not a full-blown CGI cutscene. So with that said, those are some pretty decent negatives for a game to have. The positive stuff is that I'm looking forward to learning about what this game has to offer as far as the combat and the mech construction, the base building, whatever there is, because I haven't even experienced all there is to it. I haven't done much research on this game at all. I've watched a couple of the developers' streams, but those were months and months old, so I'm sure there's plenty of outdated information in my head that is going to change as I continue to dive in deeper. But it's a good sign when you pick up a strategy game and you feel like you haven't even scratched the surface after playing for 2 whole hours. The main thing that's making me want to continue exploring the game is the fact that the combat isn't exactly what I'm used to in strategy games. Lately, the XCOM Enemy Unknown style game has become the thing to do if you're going to make a turn-based strategy game, right? You've got a squad of 4 to 6 soldiers, and you move them all on your turn, and then the enemy takes their turn, they move their soldiers, they shoot at you, you shoot back at them, back and forth, back and forth. BattleTech's combat system is a little bit different. They have an initiative system, so there's constant movement going on. It's never just your turn, then the enemy turn, it's everyone taking their turn at the same time. Based on the weight of your mech, I believe it's light, medium, heavy, and assault, that determines the order at which they can move, but you can also reserve a lighter weight mech to move later in the turn. So if you've got a lightweight, a medium, and 2 heavies, you can reserve the lightweights, then the enemy will move their lightweight mechs, and in the next initiative phase, you can move your lightweights to counter their movement. So there's this real back and forth chess match that's occurring, but it's out of order almost, and you can decide to move things when you feel it's the best opportunity, or you can hold back. There's so much, and I feel like my brain is going to explode if I try to explain it any further, because I hardly even understand it myself. But that right there is a good thing, because the game is doing a fantastic job of slowly explaining it to me, because there's a lot of systems at play, and the first mission was a glorified tutorial, and the second mission is another glorified tutorial, but it is absolutely necessary because of all the depth in the combat. So that's a place where BattleTech is excelling. It's introducing me to all of the very rich mechanics that it has to offer in a well-presented way. Like, there hasn't been a point so far where I've felt like I didn't understand what I was supposed to be doing or how things were working. There were times when I was clicking the wrong stuff and I misclicked a few times, but it had nothing to do with the fact that the game wasn't telling me how to play. It was actively teaching me and explaining new mechanics as time progressed and as I played through the first couple of missions. So with that said, my initial impressions are good. The game is built on a very solid foundation. There are a ton of interesting gameplay mechanics to figure out, and they're all explained to you very clearly, but the visuals are a little bit lacking. But I think that's a lot better than having a very poor foundation that looks really beautiful, because I can get used to it, right? I can get used to the fact that the trees don't look as shiny, there's not as much foliage, the ground doesn't look luscious, and there aren't 50,000 blades of grass making my GPU cry itself to sleep. I can get used to all that stuff if the core gameplay loop is entertaining, if I feel like my brain is being pushed to its limits because of the intense strategy that's involved in scraping together a victory, and that's what it feels like. So yeah, man, I'm going to continue playing BattleTech, and hopefully I continue to have this positive opinion of the game as I put more hours into it. With all of that said, the name of the game is BattleTech. I've done said it about 50,000 times, you should know that already. The name of the channel is iBluairJgR. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you purchased BattleTech, let me know if you're enjoying it so far. If you're thinking about purchasing it, what's holding you back? And finally, how do you feel about games that don't have the greatest presentation value but have an amazing core gameplay loop? Or you could just say hello. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.